Hello and welcome to the Merri-Cast, the show that puts you on the fast track to business confidence. Polly Barnfield OBE is an incredible bundle of energy. She's the CEO and founder of Maybe, which is dedicated to making AI secure and simple and transforming how ambitious businesses can harness it without any technical know-how. More than that though, she has a great story to tell us in this week's Merri-Cast. It somehow takes in an early passion for horses ahead of going to university, realising that she wouldn't make a great employee for anyone else. Taking instructions was not my bag, she says, right through to today and the world of AI, ChatGPT and so on. We'll hear more of all that, but her story is full of powerful metaphors and well worth a listen. So here we go.
So I have to start at the beginning, really. I got a place to do medicine when I did my A-levels, and I had one of those lovely year out. But something happened on my year out that really changed my life, which is that I'd been lent a horse because we hadn't got the wherewithal to buy one, and I got shortlisted to ride on a British team. Sounds quite crazy, but I did. And my father said to me, "Well, if you do that, you can't have a horse and go to university." So I said, "Well, I'll go and get a job." So I never went to university to do medicine. Instead, I spent 10 years riding a horse and got clients and ended up running a business. And yeah, I went fast and jumped jumps and broke lots of bones, had massive fun, did win some medals, which was even better. But my inspiration at that point was I just wanted to win. And I loved what I'm doing. I'm probably an adrenaline junkie at heart. But I didn't really sort of often think about the consequences. So when I got to 30, I realised that I'd got some very good A-levels, but I'd skipped education, and I was now good at going fast and jumping jumps, but didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. I had a crossroads, I think you'd say.
Was that an instinctive decision then? I mean, did it take you very long to make that decision, sort of horses or university? I mean, was that instinctive? Did you sort of agonize over it?
No, it was totally irrational. I'd been to Lillywhites in London and queued up to buy a tailcoat, which they'd had in the sale, and the fact I'd done that meant that I had to do it. Totally irrational, and how I make most of my decisions, to be honest.
Right. Okay. All right. So what was your next key irrational decision then that you made?
Was that actually I didn't probably ought to do that for the rest of my life. So age 30, I went to work for a web design company in Birmingham. The internet at that point was brand new. I was pretty computer literate, as a scientist, if you like. And I'd been running my own business. I'd got 60 staff and 10 staff and 60 clients. I'd turned the equestrian thing into a business, but didn't want to do that forever. So went and worked for this web design company and realised I was unemployable. I mean, really, taking all instructions from somebody else, just not my bag. So after 2 years there, I started my own agency. And after 2 years doing that, one of the people I was working with was a volunteer fundraiser to Save the Children, which led us to me say, well, come on, we should be able to use the internet to raise money for children, raise money for charity. And we started a business called Every Click. That the idea behind it was that for every pound we generated, we gave 50p to charity, and we built the fourth biggest search engine in England, a search engine called Every Click, which was great until Google said, actually, you can't use my search feed to incentivize search. They were concerned that the advertisers people were being encouraged to click on the ads. So they turned it off, and then we switched to Yahoo, but that's not as profitable. So we moved the business to something called Give As You Live, and it's still running today, and it's raised over £30 million for charity, which is really exciting.
I mean, it's very exciting. I mean, I sort of had no idea about the scale of that. When you were going through that process, of sort of the charitable Give As You Live and so on, having sort of already sort of built up your entrepreneurial sort of credentials in the in terms of turning your equestrian ventures into a sort of into a business. What was kind of driving you at that stage? Was it sort of altruistic, or was it just the fun of the challenge, or what was kind of in you at the time? Was it just a restlessness? I'm just interested.
I think I'm hardwired to. I love doing things that help others. So when we get to where I currently am, that comes through again. You're meant to be in business to make money, and money for me is the it is one of the products. I think what matters most, we're each here for one visit only, aren't we? We don't get to do this again. So you've got to have a number of outcomes, and you've got to enjoy the team you work with, and you've got to enjoy the output of your business. So, and I'm an innovator. When I'm not building tech, I like to garden. So I like creating things. I like growing big flowers, and so in business, I like to. Yeah, I'm an innovator. I like to build something new. Yeah.
Okay. So there's an innovation sort of side to you that's sort of driving you along. I mean, I'd like to understand though the sort of like the little bit of the journey. So there's a sort of charitable aspect to what you're doing, but how does that build up then to founding Maybe? I just want to know what inspired you to start that business.
Oh, that's great. Another great question. So with Give As You Live, we brought in an investor. I had a number of investors, but we brought in one particular investor who was brilliant for the business, absolutely brilliant for the business. But we just maybe didn't quite have the same view on life. And I'd been there 10 years, and I just thought, I'm fighting with a business that I don't like. I don't like doing this anymore. I don't like doing this. I don't like the environment I'm working in. So with mutual agreement, I went on gardening leave, and whilst on gardening leave, I was thinking about how really we've been very involved in the internet and quite early days of the internet, to be honest, and had seen how people's journeys to make decisions were actually really invisible, and maybe came about because I was trying to buy some doorknobs. Sounds insane. Sounds
Okay.
insane, but it's true. And my husband and I were moving to another part of England, and been left in the Cotswolds getting our house sold, and it needed quite a lot of work. And I was trying to justify buying some ridiculously expensive doorknobs. I don't know what I was thinking about, but I just if we didn't buy these doorknobs, the house wouldn't sell. Another irrational decision, undoubtedly. But I was trying to show them to him, and I realized that I was looking at things online, offline, and all of this conversation was going on. But the retailer would never be able to see it because they couldn't see my journey. Despite the fact that I knew everything about cookie tracking and online tracking and the way commission was tracked online. Business is actually are shielded from 98% of the decision making that goes into making a purchase. And so Maybe started as we wanted to create a platform that helped businesses understand the journey, the decisions, how people were getting to make the buying purchase and how you could help them. Because actually, all of the graphs you see right now and the tracking is hidden. It's really hidden because you can't see most of what the decision making is actually going on in social. You're chatting to people saying, "Hey, have you seen this thing? Do you want this thing? What do you think about this thing?" And it's all multi layers of conversation. And so maybe the reason it's called Maybe is because life is just one big decision, and actually there's more maybes in life than anything else. So that's how Maybe got his name. And yeah, we've been on a very big journey with it, and I'm incredibly excited about where it is now.
Okay, we'll get on to that in a minute. I'm interested in the early days of Maybe. Was it tricky explaining that concept to people? Because I mean, were there some people who said, "Yes, I don't know about the journey people make to make the decision, and I'm not sure I want to know either." Was there an interest in what you were saying? I mean, how did you get that sort of message across?
My skill is building technology.
Mm.
Because clearly you can say I went to university and learned how to do that, as she says jokingly. My skill is in translating a problem and getting people to deliver it. So that as a founder, you've got to be able to gather a team of people around you and achieve stuff, right? And in order to get investors to back your idea, you've got to be very good at articulating it. So what's really interesting is that what Maybe does today, which we'll talk about in a moment, spoiler alert, don't go away, is very different from where I started, but actually the core mission and vision and proposition of the company is exactly the same, which is fundamentally how do we help businesses do better business. So what the itch we were trying to scratch is it's really hard to understand and influence how people make purchases. That was the problem we were trying to fix. And once you start looking at the data and you realize how much waste there is in business because how much time is wasted with people trying to do things that they can't because they can't see the data and all that sort of stuff. it became, I was back in startup land. I must have written 100 pitches, probably more. I must have delivered 1,000 pitches, it feels like, to raise money, and I'm still raising money today. And I think the whole business of being a founder is accepting you actually don't know what tomorrow holds and having a little bit of excitement with that. We're all taught to write business plans and all the rest of it. But the truth is, with being an entrepreneur, is the plan gives you a point on the map that you're planning to get to. And the trick is to get there. The plans you write will give you a route that tells you one thing, but if other things will happen, that mean you have to, navigate round blocks and skirt the icebergs, or maybe you clip them and they take a bit off you. It's all about survival. It's all about being prepared to say, I'll get up every day and it will probably be harder than the last, but hell, I love it.
And the plan that you set out with, maybe you're saying, is more or less the same plan that you have now, or has the plan itself evolved?
Oh, the plan has evolved massively, but the vision has remained the same. And I think that's the key thing as an entrepreneur. Is my vision, my personal vision, is to win. I'm hardwired to win. That's why I end up running a horse, because I like to win. But I love the relationship you got to have with that horse. And being a founder is no different from that. You got to love the relationship you have with the team. If you don't find people you like to work with, you won't do it. So they've got to be better than you. They're going to be better than you at the things that you're not very good at. So, and you've got to hang on to that gritty, I know what I want to achieve, but I think the most important thing is you have that sort of fundamental piece of humanity in you that says, I'm probably wrong, but I'm prepared to stick to my guns about the things I need to be right about. You've got to be prepared to be quite hard-nosed about where you're going, but be very prepared to listen about how you get there, because your plan will be wrong. Your vision can be right, but your plan can be wrong. And as long as you are prepared to change your plan, but stick to your vision, you're probably going to do it. Does that make any sense?
It does. It does. It makes me think of the old General Eisenhower quote that plans are useless, but planning is essential. Is that a fair way of putting it, or not?
100%, 100%. And embrace planning. Love it, because planning is where the ideation comes from. That's a very big word. Planning is where actually the better ideas come from. Planning is where you work out how you're going to achieve your vision, and it will change because circumstances around you change. And where maybe it is now is totally because circumstances changed.
Okay, let me just ask you then, in terms of, as sort of maybe sort of starts and then grows, sort of back in 2014, so about 10 years ago, I think, that you then take on your sort of first employees. I mean, what were you looking for in them? Were you just looking for people who thought like you, acted like you, or people who didn't think and act like you?
Oh my God, I never want anybody that thinks and acts like me, because I'm a nightmare. I would never employ me, ever. So started off with, I founded the company in 2014, but we didn't really start. I kept sort of poking it for a few years, and the company didn't really become a thing. I kept thinking about it and coming back to my notes and writing about it. It didn't really start motoring probably until 5 or 6 years ago. So there's no harm in starting a thing, and you don't have to be smashing the numbers the first time. Just start. The key thing I say is start. And then in order to employ people, you need to be very clear about what you're doing. And I was still, I was doing some consulting, and I was scratching around the edges of how we actually fixed this thing with a piece of technology. And it wasn't until I got to that point I started hiring some people. And the first hires were people that actually just invested in the idea and worked alongside me. So they're co-founders. And the first person that I sought was a CTO, so a chief technical officer, because it was all about building great technology. And I can say what I want, but it's how do you build it? And a lovely lady who I work with, and what I'm really lucky is that a number of people I work with at Give As You Live joined the ship along the way. I think 3 in the end have joined us at different stages of the journey. So what I look for when I'm building my team is I want people that are much, much better than me at a specific thing. I'm a generalist. Yeah. I'm the conductor of the orchestra. I'm the chef in the kitchen that's got to find the right ingredients. And so you want to find people that are complementary, but stupendously better than you at the thing you need them to do.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about your business then. Your business revolves around integrating AI into businesses, and we've had sort of recent conversations about this. But what about your own AI in your business? I mean, have you ever struggled to integrate AI into your business? Are there any areas where it's worked far more effectively than you anticipated, or vice versa? I mean, what's your own experience of grappling with AI?
So the reason we are where we are today is because of exactly that. So maybe actually started to take off about 6 years ago when we won a government contract. And that government contract was for us to understand the conversation that 3.9 million businesses were having on social media. The reason that, so if I just wind back about the reason that we're good at data is because with the Give As You Live business, the hard nut of that we cracked was to be able to distribute funds to 160,000 UK charities. That business said, whatever charity you want to give your money to, you can choose a charity. So I'm all about data. I'm all about data. Sorry, I didn't tell you that earlier on. Sorry. But
That's all right.
with maybe the government contract was about the High Street Task. It was for something called the High Street Task Force, which is all about understanding, what it took to make places thrive. And I said, look, 92% of us are spending, or 82% of us make a decision on social media. But I know, because of the sort of thinking we were doing about maybe, that businesses aren't in that channel. And it's really interesting. So when we crawl the data for 3.9 million businesses in the UK, and every day listen to what they're saying on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or X, Facebook, and Instagram, and that, and we grouped it by each high street, so 3,600 high streets, and then determined what people were saying and are they happy or sad. So that was a lot of AI. We were using AI back then extensively, and then because of that contract, we started to win contracts to train businesses, because what the data said is that only 19% of companies are active on social media, which is crazy because that's where the conversation is happening. That's where the customer is talking about what they're going to buy, what they're going to do. It's where they're looking at where they're going to, it's where our inspiration comes from. But but businesses are really struggling to keep up. And so we took that data and built a lovely set of tools that let companies see what was being said in the town and how that all worked. And we got to the point where we were training 25,000 businesses, and the contracts were good, but they weren't enough to pay to a person, enough people to do that well. So, and we realized that also a lot of the questions that were being asked were the same. And so we were asking the same questions all the time. So yeah, you could just do FAQs, but the thing is that the businesses that were coming for help, scared, they're fed up. They're fed up of trying to find the answer. So I didn't want to leave them stranded. We wanted to be able to serve them. So we used AI to be able to do customer support. And we got really good at it. Today we can service over 1,000 people a day and get an answer to them within 13 seconds. And people honestly don't know it's AI. If they ask if it's AI, we tell them it's AI. But they talk to us about the weather, their dogs, what they're having for supper, recipes. And the AI never misses a beat. Now, we looked at this 2 years ago and said, this is insane. And what's really interesting about it is that the majority of questions we are being asked about social media was, what do we say? What should we say as a company? The reason we're not writing content and creating social content is because actually we can't create content full stop. We're too busy running business. We're too busy, running around making business work. And we're not content creators. And social media has made us all have to be content creators. And so I said to the team, well, why don't we turn what we've built internally into something that our clients can use? And we did that. And we integrated that with our social media platform. And companies loved it, absolutely loved it. But then we realized, sorry, keep going.
No. I was just going to say, I said, why? I mean, I keep thinking about the stat that you just gave me a few minutes ago around the 19%. Only 19% of people use social media, and the link that you then made to AI. Why are people reticent? Why are businesses so reticent? Is there a sort of hostility around it, a fear, a lack of understanding? I'm just interested in that. I know you've been sort of researching a lot into this area recently.
Oh, a fascinating question. So, whilst of that 82% of us on social media, it's something staggering, like less than 2% of people are content creators. That we're all watchers. We're watchers, and we might hit that like button and comment and have a rant. But actually, as regards creating content, it's not, being on stage, public speaking, all of those things, which is what creating social content is something that many of us don't like doing. You're going to be judged, and all those things. But so individually, we're consuming social media, posting a bit, but there's a real gap between how, as an individual, you use it, and those people are absolutely thumping it with content creation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like going to the pub. You do you want to stand up and hold fort, or do you just want to chat with your mates? What's the human condition?
Yeah, that's a great answer to my question on that. The whole area is so fascinating, and I could spend ages on this, but I'm not going to sort of now. So I'm going to fight my sort of temptation. I want to ask you a question though about you've talked about winning, 2 or 3 times now in the course of the interview. And in business, do you ever actually win? I mean, there's a point where you've had a success or you've hit a target, but it's not that you don't reach the end of the competition, like in, with the horses where you win, the competition or win the gold medal or things like that. It's an ongoing thing. So how are you defining winning? I'm interested in what you're doing, because business is like an ongoing thing rather than a sort of finite thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So yeah, winning for me is fighting the next day. Winning for me is making sure the team have a great place to work and the team grows and we hire great people. Winning for me is giving a great return to my shareholders. Winning for me is delivering huge value to our customers, and I think I want to come back to talking about Maybe, if I may. Winning with Maybe and the AI product we're building is now allowing any size of business, regardless of technical capability or resource, to be able to use AI to improve their results, save time, and create a better environment to work. Because going back to that data around social media, what it taught us is that actually in this technology revolution that we are all in, it's incredibly hard to keep up and do good business. And so, the whole social media thing, and as you say, we bumped into each other through talking to agencies. The whole business of creating content, understanding data, stitching data together is consuming a vast amount of time, but being pretty unproductive because it's just really hard. And so winning for me with business is solving that problem. And I arrive in London on the train and I think one day I want to know that everybody's going to work and is going to be using our product. That's the vision, if you like. That's the feel of what I want to do. And that the byproduct of that means that I'm creating a great team and I'm delivering great return to my shareholders. You said an interesting thing, which is winning with a horse was very binary. You won a thing or you didn't. But the truth is you won a thing one day and then you were only as good as your next result. And that for me is the same as business, because Nokia started as a business selling tires, but it had to pivot to do mobile phones to succeed. Maybe started with one vision, and we've embraced AI because we got really good at AI and we're now turning it into product. We got good at AI internally, and we're now turning actually a little tiny percentage of our business into the main part of our business because the world's changed. AI has changed the game. And I can see in the same way that we saw with the data with social media, businesses were struggling to adopt. That gap is going to get bigger if they don't have the tools to use AI well.
So is that the next result for you then, in terms of Maybe as a business sort of meeting that challenge that people are facing? Just tell me a little bit about the sort of the near future, if you like.
Yeah, the new future for us is very clear, which is that we believe that at November 22, when ChatGPT was released, everything changed because suddenly AI wasn't something that a bunch of technologists could use. It was something that everybody could touch and feel and try. But in truth, ChatGPT is a playground that actually provides a set of developer tools to make it better. Because once you've used it a bit, you realize that unless you keep telling it every single time who you are, it gets a bit bland and a bit repetitive, and that's like just creating bad copy. It doesn't just, you can't just create volume to create results. You've got to create quality. What we believe with Maybe today is that we provide a safe space for everybody to put their business secrets, because you don't want to just put your secrets in the wind with GPT and let it train the models on them. You need to put it in a safe place, and then you need to let your team be able to ask how to create social content, create presentations, create sales decks, create press releases, whatever it is. And I mean, create the first draft. I think AI is our ally. It's our place where we brainstorm. It helps you stitch together huge amounts of data and get an answer from it. But treat it like a team member. Treat it like the first draft, and then go and add your magic sprinkles as a human being. Go and make it better. Let it take the golden thread of your company and enable all of your team to understand, I don't know, what the latest stock package has changed to, how you've just changed the way you talk about the products, because it makes all of us able to do our work better. It's not about taking jobs, it's about letting us do our jobs better. And that's with maybe what we're really focused on, is how do you enable any company to do that safely and securely? Because if you haven't got a tech team and you haven't got technical knowledge, you're getting only a little tiny piece of AI, or you're getting AI in every product you use, but it doesn't know how to be you. And what our vision is how do we let everybody have access to use this amazing tool? Because it is amazing, but you need to take the wrappers off it and drive it, not just sort of poke it from the outside.
Do you know, I think that's one of the best descriptions I've heard of around sort of AI, about it being part of the team, but to add I think you said human sprinkles on top, and I really like that as a way of talking about it. Now, we want to give listeners the confidence they need to succeed. I mean, I'm interested in the lessons that you have learned along the way. I'm sure there are many in terms of being an entrepreneur, and also whether there's any advice you would give to people just starting out.
Can I be brutal?
Of course.
It's going to be horribly tough. You're going to get a bloody nose, but oh boy, you're going to have a load of fun. You've just, it's not for everybody. And I would be nobody without the amazing team that work for me. So just be prepared. You are getting in the ring and you're going to get punched on the nose. And if that's not for you, that's not a problem. But go and find somebody that is prepared to be punched on the nose and work for them. So yeah, I don't know how you get trained to be an entrepreneur. I don't know whether you're hardwired for it. I think I probably was, because I would be the worst employee in the land. But you've got to, if you're the worst employee on the land, possibly because you think you're always right, the hardest thing to do then as a founder is to accept you're wrong most of the time. So it's a really strange blend, which is you want to be able to follow your own vision, but you've got to be prepared to bring a team with you and listen to them and sift and work out, is actually what they're saying the right way to get to that place on the map you want to get to, when you might think there's another route. And that whole business of being able to empower great people to help you achieve the vision, but actually collectively be prepared to jink and turn and twist and duck and dive as you go through the battlefield, because it is a battlefield, I'm afraid. And external things will change we're living in a very uncertain world where all sorts of things can change how you get to your end goal. But look, if you like a little bit of scrapping, but love working and achieving an outcome, there isn't a better life. But it's not plain sailing, but it's a load of fun.
Polly tells her story so well. Being an entrepreneur is going to be tough, she says. You'll get punched on the nose, and that even though you're the founder, you're probably still wrong most of the time, so you might as well get used to it. And on ChatGPT, I love her positive take on its ability to let us do our jobs better by providing that human magical sprinkling on top of its work. So thank you to Polly for being such a great guest, and thank you to you all for tuning in. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate and review through your usual podcast provider. And if you want to find out more about the Merri-Cast or our business Merrible Media, you can find us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to join us for our next episode, and until then, thanks for listening.